Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel and the rebuild of our unfinished Sealine SC35. In the last episode we permanently fitted our new cockpit glass, bringing us one big step closer to being fully weathertight. Today we've got one final piece of glass to install in the cockpit. Once that's in, we can then move on to the next important stages, working on how we're going to demist the windscreens, planning the pipework routing, and starting the build of the new ceiling framing for the heads. So plenty to get stuck into, so let's crack on. So that piece of glass is now bonded in and dried, so we can seal around the edge. But I mean, how good does that look? Really, really smart. Nice tint on it as well. So yeah, really pleased with the way that that's turned out. So we'll get some sealant in here. We're going to do this one first, get this sealed in. This one is all prepped and ready to go. We've sanded the bottom edge here with the fiberglass because that was a bit sort of wavy, so we just drew a line and then sanded up to that, so that's now nice and flat and nice and straight, and also took all the sharp sort of edges off it just so we don't get any fiberglass in our fingers. So that's ready to go, but we'll get this sealed in first and then we'll be able to go over to this piece of glass and get that bonded in. So both those pieces of glass are now in. It's really nice to get those in. Look really smart. We've just got the heater running here as well. Richard's just got the thermostat up there. Set the heater so we're nice and toasty down here during the winter. And also we've got that piece of glass in over the rear cabin as well. So again, just really helps us keep warm in here and lets lots of light into the back here, which we've not had before. So that'll be nice when we're working in there. So now what we're doing is just looking at the pipework for the windscreen demisters. So you can see there that we've got these slots in the fiberglass, and basically we need to bring the pipework back through here, back up through here, and then we need to turn a corner, and then we need to shoot over to the back of the wardrobe. We've got some APK here. This is 60mm, so we'll be using two 60mm pieces of pipe going into a Y adapter, and then we've also got a flange, 60mm flange, which just sits up here. So we just need to now drill all the holes that go through to there, and then also come all the way back through so we can feed through that pipework. We'll be using a 59mm hole here, and then all the other holes will be 65mm working forward.
In your sawn, it ain't that bad, is it?
No.
So we've pulled our demister pipes through, so we just drilled holes through. The first one was a 60mm, I think, 59mm, and then we had to go to a slightly larger size in the end of 70mm. That has given us a little bit of a gap all the way around, so just able to slide that pipe through nice and easy. But what we will do is we'll just put a couple of blobs of Sikaflex in here just to stop that rattling when we're underway. And then we've got the same deal here and then through underneath here, and then we just swept those pipes round and then into the above the wardrobe there, and then we've got a connector there. We've got two 60mm pipes running into a 80mm pipe, and then that will then be we'll have an adapter on there that reduces from 90 to 80. So yeah, and we will have a diverter flap as well, electronically actuated from the helm, that will allow us to demist the windscreen. But yeah, overall the whole thing has turned out really quite well, so we're happy with the way that. We've also put this piece in above the windscreen, so this is the sort of last of the ceiling framing that we'd left just because we knew we got to get these pipes in. So we will be able to now glass that into place and paint that black underneath, and that will finish all of that off nicely. So Richard he's just made a template out of just some scrap chipboard, so basically we need a piece that goes in here, and we want to put it on the angle so that it effectively deflects the air up and through those slots there. So he's just cut a test piece. We've got that in place and that fitted nicely. So what we'll do now is I think we're going to cut that out of some ready-made GRP that we've got that's already got gel coat on one side. We're just thinking that we might get a little bit of moisture in here, and obviously if we've got wooden components that is going to rot. So we're going to make that bottom piece out of GRP, or cut it from GRP, and then we will also coat all of this in fiberglass as well all around here, and then we'll just be able to use some Sikaflex and stick that piece in. Also means with Sikaflex, if we ever needed to take it out again, we shouldn't have to, but if we did, we'd be able to get that out. So we've just found this piece of GRP. It's like a 4mm with some timber on the bottom. We can separate the timber off. So 4mm, perfect. The size is just right. Richard was saying it's just big enough. So if we cut that now to that shape, but that'll also be nice and lightweight as well. Okay, so we've cut that piece of fiberglass and then we've just temporarily hot glued that into place. So it looks a bit of a mess at the moment, but this is just so we can test if this is going to work. So I've also bought some extra pieces as well. So we've got some 80mm APK, which what we're going to do is pop that onto there and run that down through that hole just as a temporary. And then I've also got another spigot as well. So that will need to go up here like that. And that finishes that off nicely, so we'll get that screwed into place. And then what I've got is some 100mm ventilation pipe as well. So that's just something I happen to have lying around at home in the garage. And what I'm going to do is run that from here up to this 90mm here, and I'm hoping, because that's 100mm, that'll just slide over the top and we can just run some tape around it, some duct tape, and that'll be fine just as a temporary. And this is running hot at the moment. It's nice and warm in this cabin, absolutely freezing outside. So what I'll have to do is just set this to vent. So what we don't want is hot air coming through here and melting that plastic pipe, which I'm pretty sure it probably will do. So I'll turn it just to vent, and then we'll be able to see how that blows up through onto those windscreen demister vents. Oh yeah, that's really good. You can really feel that coming through there.
I bet, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to have no, if you deflect that up to there, not a problem. Interesting to see actually if it heats up in here.
I think I can feel the draft coming this way. I thought it was better than that. No, I mean that's plenty, isn't it?
Yeah. Alright, so that works really, really well. Plenty of air coming out of there, nice hot air. In fact, I can feel it up here on the top of the windscreen. So that would hopefully, once we've diverted it to the bottom of the windscreen on both sides, that should demist that no problem at all. And we've got no problem integrating the electronics on the planar, so that is, I think, a solution, and we'll go ahead with that. So next what we need to do is just get our piece of fiberglass back out of here, and we'll make this permanent. So we'll build a little frame for this to sit on. And then I think what we'll do is we'll probably use some white resin and get this all glassed in and sealed, because we've just got to bear in mind that if any water or condensation comes off the screen, this could effectively end up being a bit wet in here, so we need to make sure that that is fully waterproof. And just to reinforce that point about water, I don't know if you can see it, the camera picks it up, but already there is some water on here, which is presumably just condensation that's come off the windscreen. Yeah, so we definitely need to make sure that this box that we create up here is fully watertight. Okay, so we have just built ourselves a little frame inside this airbox for the demister. So this is just screwed and bonded into place, and this will now give us something to fix our fiberglass piece to. And then what we'll be able to do is seal that in, but we will actually, if you ever needed to get in there for any reason, we could potentially break away that sealant and get that out and get into there just for maintenance. Hopefully we'll never need to do that. What we will need to do is fiberglass inside here and coat all of this in resin and flow coat, just to make sure this is all fully waterproof, just in case any condensation drops down into here and sort of sits there. So that's something we'll need to do. Also just put a piece of plywood in here. That was just a hole in the frame that was missing, so we just epoxied that in. So we'll just sand that now, cut that flush, coat that in black. That finishes that off. That's just one of those annoying little jobs. Also put some epoxy in here as well, again just sort of finishing off jobs really. And also we've put this last piece of ceiling frame in as well, so that is now all epoxied in and screwed into place. That's set up, so we'll be able to sand that now and coat this in black as well, and we'll be able to put some of the fast mount sockets in here to take our ceiling pads. So that's all good. And finally I just sanded that piece there and just coated that in black as well. That was just an unfinished piece. So next we are going to have a look at our heads. So we need to think about building a lattice framework, ceiling framework, as the same as we've done in the forward cabin, all done in lightweight plywood, poplar plywood, and coated. And I think we're going to have to do the same in here as well. We've not originally in the factory, they would have had like a fiberglass moulding that would have gone in here, but we've got no option to do that really. It'd be very, very difficult for us to mould that. And actually we can probably make just a nice job using the ceiling lattice option instead. So what we're going to do is create a ceiling frame. We're going to have to try and maximise the standing height as much as we can, so that's something we're going to need to think about. And what we'll do is we'll start building up some framing that comes across here in black, and then we can sort of start to piece it together. We're trying to aim here for a ceiling height of at least 6 foot, maybe if we can get it to 6'1", something like that. What's that? It's 188, 190 centimetres is kind of our target, and that means then that you can stand upright in the shower, no problem at all. But that does mean that we will end up here hitting the ceiling, so we're going to have to take account of that, and we're probably going to have to build a bulkhead across, which is what they actually did in the original boat as well, just to maximise that headroom. But we'll start by cutting a piece to go in here and see if we can get the shape of the underside of this deck, and then we can start to piece it all together. Okay, that's going to be a wrap for today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give us a thumbs up. See you on the next one.